Hey, I'm Jimmy.
I'm Colleen.
We're your Astute tourists, and we're in Concord, New Hampshire at the Steadfast Spirits Distilling Company. Hey, so I'm sitting here with CJ Lundergan, the owner-proprietor of Steadfast Spirits Distilling Company here in Concord, New Hampshire. And he invited us up to take a tour and to find out a little bit about his operation here. How you doing, CJ?
I'm doing well, thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Good. So thank you for inviting us up here. I appreciate that. And it'll give our viewers a little bit of knowledge about distilling and what goes into the process.
Absolutely.
So can you tell me a little bit about your company?
Sure. So we are an American whiskey company that was founded in 2016. We didn't find a location till 2018, and we were able to open our doors to the public actually the 31st of last January. So coming up on a 2-year anniversary, which is cool. We happened to open our doors right at the beginning of COVID, which was a perfect time to open a business. But actually, it wasn't a bad time to open a liquor business. So we are a liquor business. We do make American whiskeys. You see them all kind of behind us here. So we make traditional American corn-based spirits, and then we blend them into a million different products that are all versions of that product.
So yeah, I see you have some flavored ones here. We put out the strawberry mash, and there's the harvest shine, and I guess this is the traditional. This is
Absolutely.
More of the whiskey.
Yeah. So this product here, the traditional shine, that's where everything started for me, and that's absolutely where everything started for this company here. By definition, it is an 86 proof traditional American unaged whiskey, which is a mouthful. That's why we call it traditional shine. But it really is a whiskey through and through. It is an all grain product. It's very corn forward, so it's 60% corn. So when we make a bottle of this, so I mean, this is where everything starts here. When we make a bottle of that, it takes 1,000 pounds of grain, and that's.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's
one bottle takes 1,000 pounds.
Well, one batch takes 1,000. Yep.
How many bottles can you get out of a batch?
That's a good question. We end up with about 35 gallons of product. So it's whatever 35 times 5 is.
Okay.
I'm no mathematician, so
gotcha.
I don't know that, but yeah. So one batch of this will make about 35, roughly 36 gallons of raw shine, and then we'll proof that down into this, so that when it comes off the still is about 60%. So it's about 120 proof roughly, but it is an all grain product. So in this particular bottle, there's 60% corn. So that's 600 pounds of corn in one bottle to make one batch of that.
Wow.
And then we just use traditional malted rye and 3 types of barley. So it's very old school.
I was going to say, so this is very similar to pretty much early American, the early Kentucky whiskeys.
Absolutely.
And the George Washington style, that's unaged, right? That's why we have a clear color.
That's why it's clear, and that's a lot of what I tried to found this company on. The Steadfast Spirits portion of this company was all about doing it the old way. It was all about doing it, shouldn't say the right way, but in my opinion, the way that whiskey should be made. So, I founded Steadfast Spirits on holding true to that kind of mentality of, doesn't matter what it costs, it doesn't matter if it's efficient, it just makes a really, really nice bottle of whiskey at the end of the day.
Excellent. I'm excited to have a taste a little bit
I'm excited to have some too.
Yeah.
We designed everything in this place around making this, making those bottles or barrels of bourbon you see behind us. Like, it is a old school way of doing business. So
let's talk about the barrels behind us, and we'll take a closer look at those a little bit later. But so you're making some aged whiskey.
Oh God, yeah. We're sitting on a healthy dose. I'm going to say right now about the better part of 400 gallons of bourbon between that and what's out back that you can't see. And to be honest, our bourbon is this. It's traditional shine that we put and we barrel age it. So we're going to launch them under a different brand. So we're going to launch those under the Steadfast Spirits brand, just because it's a little bit different than these unaged whiskeys and all our versions of it. But yeah, so we're sitting on the bourbon. Bourbon will be, knock on wood, bourbon will be available December 1st. Excellent. Providing glassware comes in on time, and we're working with the screen shop now to get the glassware done. But yeah, so we're sitting on all the bourbon. It's a very traditional American bourbon. It's a nice spicy rye. Really sweet front end, rye in the middle, and then bready at the end. Fun bourbon. But we also have barrels full of a traditional American rye, as well as a wheated American whiskey. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say Maker's Mark, but a Maker's Mark style of whiskey. So that real nice wheated whiskey. We haven't barreled any wheated yet, because as soon as we drain those first rounds of bourbon, which will be next week, we're going to soak those barrels right away with that wheated whiskey to kind of keep it going.
Excellent.
So
how long does the aging process take?
It's a good question. It depends on the barrel. It depends on the atmosphere in the building. It depends on a lot of other things. With what you see on the top over there, those are 20-gallon American white oak barrels. Those are the first soak are about 18, 19 months. So when I drain them next week, they'll be almost 19 months in the wood. But the next soak is going to be a little bit longer, and then the next soak after that will be our final soak, but that will be a little bit longer than that. As you go up in volume, you go longer in age, because that volume of liquor to wood ratio kind of throws everything off. That's why generally a 53-gallon barrel is a 3-year soak at minimum. So we can do smaller barrels a little bit quicker. We are sitting on 30-gallon barrels, and we are prepping to start filling 53s as well. We're just trying to kind of stagger it out a little bit.
Gotcha. So right now we're sitting in, what do we call this?
We call this Steadfast Tasting Room. Again, we feature mostly Troubles Moonshine here right now, but it is our tasting room. We pour samples for people if they want to come in and try something, but we also will we do flights. So when we designed this company, we tried to mimic that craft brewery feel, which is very popular right now. So we'll rock what we call tasting flights, and I don't have one with me to show you, but they're 5 samples, they're 5 half-ounce pours of what we would recommend, or we always have that make your own option where you can pick 5 that you want to try and sit down with your friends and family and have a good time, and do it in our place here.
So you are open to the public then?
Absolutely.
And
every Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And you're located where?
134 Hall Street in Concord, New Hampshire.
Excellent.
We're Suite H, all the way in the back left. So,
tell me a little bit what's in the future for you folks. Where do you see yourself? Is there any different brews other than once you open those casks in the back? What are your plans for the future?
So that's a loaded question, and I love that question, because we do everything. We do very traditional whiskeys. We do kind of sort of untraditional aged whiskeys, really into ryes and bourbons. But those are, without saying stuffy, those are a little bit stuffy. Those are more of that, we don't get to have as much fun as I would love to have, which is where Troubles comes in. So we're going to continue to make Troubles Moonshine all the time. I kind of feel like this is the staple of this place, which is kind of funny, because when I opened this business, when my wife and I did, she reminded me this was going to be the bread and butter of this place. This is what was going to bring people in. And being a whiskey guy, I'm like, no. Like, I thought it was going to go the other way. But the more I learned, the more she was right. Like, we're going to do those things, the bourbons, the whiskeys, the ryes, that real traditional product, but almost more so for us and our clientele for passion project. These moonshines, we do new stuff every day. We're launching 1 to 2 new products a month in the moonshine lineup. Whether it's new cocktails or new 86 proof flavored whiskeys, or we just launched I call it a dessert line, but I don't know what we're going to call it yet. But they're 72 proof, super sweet, super fun. We just launched toasted marshmallow, peanut butter, and chocolate whiskeys.
Oh wow!
They've been really well received. That peanut butter goes like hotcakes. So we're always just kind of pushing that boundary of what you can do with whiskey, especially unaged whiskeys, and people seem to enjoy what we're doing. So we're just always doing wild things. Can't give you any products right now, but we will certainly do something.
Well, I'm
fun.
sure it's somewhat of a close to the cuff secret for now. I'm sure.
Absolutely, until we launch it. We launched toasted marshmallow and what we call Harvest Shine, which is a very fall inspired 86 proof unaged whiskey for this time of year. But we launched that last weekend, and we try to hide it until it's like ready to go to the public. So
if folks want to pick up a bottle or two of this moonshine, do they have to come here, or are there other places where they can get it?
So it depends on what they're looking for. So everything that we ever offer tastings of in the tasting room, we will sell in our retail store right here, which is right behind you. And I think right now we're probably pushing 16 products, I think, right now for sale here. We were able to sign on with the state of New Hampshire liquor stores, so the liquor and wine outlets, back in June of this past year. So we've been in there about half a year now, and we're pushing 3 products: apple pie, lemonade, and a cranberry-based pink lemonade, which is over on the shelf. So those 3 products are in about 50 stores, 55 stores right now. But we're always trying to get new stuff in. We're always trying to grab new stores and new product lines. So the best thing you can do is if you want something and it ain't available, go to your local store and just ask, say, hey man, like I really want to try that. Can you get it in? And a lot of stores are really good about doing that.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of people are going to enjoy this, and hopefully by doing this video and getting some of our supporters involved, I'm sure you're going to have more sales, much more sales here in the near future, especially with Christmas coming on. So
yeah, I look forward to that. We have all kinds of stuff coming out, plus bourbon for Christmas, so it's going to be a good season.
Fantastic. So CJ, thank you for inviting us in.
Absolutely.
We have a little bit over 1,000 supporters right now. So
sweet. And
there are people all over the world. So who knows? Maybe we can get some mail order stuff going for you as well.
I look forward to it.
So we're up here at Steadfast Spirits Distilling Company in Concord, New Hampshire, and I'm with CJ. And if you guys are interested, I know you have a website?
We absolutely do. We have steadfastspirits.com as well as troublesmoonshine.com, both of which are active. We do a lot through our Facebook page or our social media, so we have Steadfast Distilling on Facebook as well as on Instagram. I think we're on Twitter as well, but I'm not sure about that. But yeah, so we try to hit all angles.
Excellent. So you can find them on social media. Sounds like they have it pretty well covered. So again, if you're interested in any of the Steadfast products, send CJ a message via Instagram or on his Facebook page or their website. Or if you're in the local area here in New Hampshire around Concord, stop by the 134 Hall Street in Concord, New Hampshire location. And you said Friday through Sunday, right?
Friday through Sunday, yep.
Very good. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So everything we do here, as I had said before, was corn-based, or primarily corn. So everything generally starts with about 50 to 60% corn for that whole grain bill. Ironically, I mean, if you look over on the racks to my left, there isn't any corn here because we use so much of it. I try to keep it, I get it fresh the day we're going to mash it in. The barleys, the malts, the rye, any of the adjuncts, everything else we use, we try to keep in-house. And we go through so much corn, I mean 600 pounds at a time generally. So I'll get that ordered in as we need it. Everything we do here starts in this container here. It's a little messy on the outside right now because we're in the middle of a cleaning run. But everything starts in that container. That container is a 375, what's called working gallon mash tun. But what that means is you can put 375 gallons of water or liquid in that tank. It is a false bottom, meaning there is 2 bottoms to this tank. I'd love to open it up and show you, but I can't because it's full of liquid. But there is a false floor about here with a bunch of perforations, holes in it. And then there's another bottom that slopes down to that drain right here. And there's a big rake inside. It is a steam jacketed container. So basically what we'll do is we'll put about 2/3 of our total volume of water in that tank with all of our grains. And throughout the course of about an 8-9 hour day, we'll cook all those grains down and we'll convert all the starches in the corn and all the other grains into fermentable sugars in that container over the course of 8 to 9 hours. When all those starches are converted over, we'll shut the rake off, we'll let that grain bed settle down, and about 1,000 pounds of dry grain will settle to about here. And it'll make basically a large sponge, if you will, of grain that sits on top of that false floor with all those holes in it. At that point, we'll open this drain here, which is below that grain bed, and we'll drain all of that sugar water, basically, through that grain bed. We'll catch any of those solids within the grain bed. Anything that makes its way out, we'll try to catch it in there. And we'll drain a nice, clean, I don't want to call it clear, but it's a pretty clear brownish liquid that is loaded with fermentable sugars, all natural sugars. And we'll drain all that liquid out. We'll pump it into one of our fermenters. This one here you see is full. It's full to about 290 gallons roughly of, at this point, it's called mash because it's made with grain, but it's very high sugar content liquid. We'll pitch our yeast that we culture our yeast right here in house, and we'll put it in here. It's called pitching. And we'll pitch that yeast. After about 2 weeks, that mash will become beer. In the distilling world, we call it distiller's beer, but it is a beer through and through. When this is fermented out fully, if I'm making bourbon or moonshine with it, you're pushing that 11-12% alcohol in about 300 gallons of beer. So it's a really nice high-proof beer. From here, after that 2 weeks, we'll let it settle for a few days, let any solids settle down into the bottom. You can't see it, but underneath there's a cone on the bottom of this tank, and all those solids will fall, they'll drop out, and this will be really nice and clear, and again, 12% alcohol. From there, we'll pump it into the main still kettle. This here is our main still kettle. We'll get some good, some images from the front, but that is a 300 working gallon main still. We'll fill it to about 250 gallons of beer when we're going to run it. The other 25 to 30 gallons of beer will end up in what's called the doubler, which is this container here. Our doubler is 1/3 the size of our main still kettle. This is a very traditional American whiskey and Irish whiskey process here. So we'll put that main beer in the kettle and in the doubler, and we'll slowly boil the alcohol out of that beer. So if you look at the top, there's what's called the shoulders and the cape, and then that long tube is called the line arm. That line arm is forced down into the bottom of the secondary kettle, or the doubler. So that arm comes all the way down into the bottom of the kettle, which is then under water, or under beer. We have a bunch of holes all around the bottom of that, so as that beer boils, the alcohol will boil first. It boils at about 275 degrees. Alcohol in general will boil from 175, to 200 roughly degrees. So it'll start boiling. We'll start forcing that alcohol vapor up the line arm, down into the bottom of the secondary kettle or the doubler, and it will recondense into beer. Once it recondenses into beer, it'll slowly raise the temperature of that kettle up to that 175 degree point again. At that point, when it hits 175 degrees in the doubler, it was 12-13% in that kettle. Now we're pushing 24-25% in the doubler, hence the term doubler. It's a double distill. It doubles the proof in the kettle, and at that point it'll start off-gassing alcohol vapor again, which gets forced up that little tube on the left-hand side, and it will get forced into this giant chrome column. This chrome column here is basically a giant heat exchanger, or a large heat exchanger I should say, but it is a way to knock the heat out of the alcohol steam, which is within that column there, and we'll just strip the heat out of the steam and knock it back down into a liquid, which is now straight liquid alcohol. That will pour out this tube. When it starts to pour out the tube, it'll be about 80-85% roughly at the very beginning. We'll run it down to about 70% before we even start to do anything with it here in-house. When it gets to that 70% range, now we're looking at the American whiskeys, we're looking at the Moonshine line, and we'll run it from 70% all the way down to roughly 45 to 50%, somewhere in that range, and we'll collect all that. That's the really good alcohol that we like to have. Out of one run, we'll get about 35 gallons, as we said earlier, of that really good, just really nice alcohol. We call it hearts. And it will roughly be about 60%. So we'll get about 35 gallons of 60% or 120 proof hearts. We collect it in this container right here, and we'll collect it here. And then it's a matter of what we want to do with it. So we'll have 35 to 40 gallons of hearts in here, and if we want to make traditional shine, literally we'll roll it right over to the bottling station, which is right over there. We'll proof it down with RO filtered water down to 86 proof, and we'll bottle it right there in our little bottling machine. If we want to make a flavored one, we'll flavor it right in there. We'll add a bunch of honey or a bunch of maple. We'll do what we're going to do, and we'll blend it down with filtered water, and again, bottle it up. If we want to make a cocktail out of that particular product, we'll store it in those containers right there until we're ready to make a large batch of cocktails. And what I consider a large batch here in-house, if we're not making 150 gallons of apple pie, I'd rather not do it. So we wait until we have 150 gallons of apple pie or lemonade or margarita that we have to make, and we'll do it all at once. We have much better consistency that way. It's a lot easier to make a larger batch, a lot easier to clean a larger batch. And I know roughly 150 gallons of apple pie takes 2 of those stainless containers. So as long as I have 2 full, I can generally make whatever I need to make over here. Lastly, if we're making bourbon or traditional American whiskey or rye, any of those traditional barrel-aged products, as soon as it goes into this barrel, I'll check the proof. I know it's roughly 120 proof. I know it's about 60% alcohol. And as long as it's within a couple of percent either way of that, I will literally roll this right over here, right over to our barrel aging station, if you will. And I'll put it right into one of these barrels. At that point, it will become bourbon or traditional American whiskey or rye, and we'll throw it on the racks. We'll let it age for however long that we want to age that particular product. We do have more aging rooms out on the other side of the wall over here to just kind of to meet the demand of what we're looking at right now. So we're generally looking at about 210 to 220 gallons of aged product here in the racks, and then everything else is out back. But so that's the jam. Once those are ready, as I said earlier, the bourbon will be ready December 1st. So those top row on this rack and the top row on that rack is approximately 90 gallons roughly. We're going to drain that right out. We're going to proof it right down, put it right into bottles, and it'll be on the shelf probably within a day of that process. So that's how we do it here. You know, we try to limit the amount of times that we can touch it, that we have to touch it, that we have to mess with it. Because in my opinion, every time you mess with something, it gets worse. So we try to just make it clean and quick and easy and traditional. So that's how we do it.
So we've had a great day here at the Steadfast Spirits Distilling Company located at 134 Hall Street in Concord, New Hampshire. They're open from Friday through Sunday, so if you want to come up to the tasting room, you can come up here and sample some of their wares before you buy some other product to take home with you. It's been a great day. We learned all about making traditional American whiskey and moonshine. We had a tour of the distillery, and it was a lot of fun.
It's a blast.
Yep. So and the whiskey and the moonshine's really good. So you definitely want to check them out. They're on Facebook. They have a website, and I believe they're on Instagram as well. So I would highly recommend that you check them out. So that's going to do it for us. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Colleen.
We'll see you later.